Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 1 of ReZero Season 2. This is our um first episode reaction to this, and the first time for it, because of it being in the new weekly schedule and everything. We are here with the weekly schedule, new stuff, and we're having this reaction on Sundays. So be prepared for new reactions to this series every Sunday. Yeah. Okay, so ReZero. I have seen season 1. Let's get that off out of the way right off the bat. And I saw that winter special as well. I don't know if there's anything else besides those. If there is, I probably saw it, but those are the ones I know for sure that I saw. Especially because I rewatched them again recently with Rough Senpai. Rough Senpai did reactions to ReZero season 1 and the winter special on his Twitch. He also has been doing season 2, but I haven't been watching that yet, obviously. um, it had been a couple years since I had seen season 1 prior to that, so I was kind of getting reacquainted for when I did get to season 2. And I'm glad I did, because there were definitely things I forgot about. And even now, it's been like weeks and weeks, probably a couple months since he finished season 1. Yeah, probably a couple months. Probably been since November. And at this point, it's just like there are still things I forget, because that's just how I am. But I remember the big gist of it. So, just as a quick recap, ReZero season 1, a young kid named not young kid, but a teenager. He's young to me, okay? I'm 29 years old now. I feel old. But seriously, this teenage kid named Subaru, at least I assume he's a teenager. He's either a teenager or like right out of high school. If he's I don't know. I actually don't know his age offhand. He's either a teenager or right out of high school, one or the other. But he ends up kind of blinking into another world. He's at a little like market shop, like kind of like a 7-Eleven. Little like what's the word? My mind is blanking. I've reacted to multiple things to the day I'm recording this, but yeah, I'm just trying to think of what it would be called. Convenience store, that's it. So he comes out of a convenience store with his stuff. He literally stops at the road, blinks, and he's in another world. No explanation of how it happens. So yes, this is an isekai. But in a lot of isekai, the character either usually dies or is like somehow sent or brought to the other world. We have no idea what happened with Subaru. He just kind of blinks and he's there. No explanation, nothing. But being a NEET, basically, he has played so many video games and everything, he kind of like starts to use that kind of logic there, and it doesn't phase him as much. Because he's like, oh, I'm used to this kind of stuff in like the content uh, I watch and play and everything. So it's like, so if this is going by video game rules, and it's basically he tries to logic things out that way. He sees himself as the main character and shit, and it's like it's silly. He ends up meeting a bunch of different people, ends up especially falling in love with this half-elf girl named Amelia, who is up for contention of the throne of the kingdom, along with a bunch of other contenders who are all interesting characters in their own right. He ends up working for the mansion that Amelia is part of the family of, not by birth, but kind of like more of a found family thing, where he meets the maids Rem and Ram, who become friends, and Rem falls in love with him. So kind of a love triangle here. Um, but along the way, like, we're introduced to all these different power systems and these different concepts throughout the world. We get to see all these different arcs that the characters go through. Um, and then there's Subaru's main ability. See, Subaru has a power, but it's not one that he can control that well, and it's not one that he really wants. Subaru's power is that upon death, he returns to life at a previous point and place in time. Basically, he returns to a previous save point, to use video game terms. And because of this power, he ends up dying a lot in the series. And a lot of times in these horribly gruesome, really violent, and really painful ways. Because even though he keeps coming back to life, he still feels all the pain of these deaths. And there are a couple points where it takes a major toll on his psyche. Major toll. But he can't tell anyone about it. Like, this unknown force won't let him tell anyone. But there's all these other characters he meets. There's all these other issues. There's this entire arc about defeating this giant, like, evil white whale that's flying through the air and everything. And it's like, it's a monster whale, and it's really insane. And that arc was fantastic. But then there's this other arc afterwards that's like introduces like this. Well, actually, they were introduced prior to that, but there's this witches cult, led by this guy who's absolutely insane in the best way possible, Betelgeuse, who's voiced by the same voice actor as Subaru from, or not Subaru. I was stuck on Subaru, who's voiced by the same voice actor as Kirito from Sword Art Online. And it's like, holy shit, that voice actor has range. Because it's such a different role, such a different voice, and it's like, wow. Like, just legit props on the voice actor there. But yeah, it's like, there's all this different kind of crazy stuff that happens, and it's mostly set within a fantasy world, kind of this typical medieval fantasy world. So there's a lot of stuff going down. I would not suggest checking out these reactions unless you have already seen season 1, just because you will probably be confused as to where things are at the moment. And again, I can't go through explaining every little thing because it'll take too long. There's just way too many details to get through. I might make mentions of certain things as we go along in this season, just to like say like, oh, this character, I remember them, they did this or whatever. Stuff like that. Nothing big, nothing like spectacular, no like long discussions on it. Just a brief thing when the characters return or whatnot. I will say right off the bat, my favorite character is the cat boy Felix. He's a cat demi-human, and he's a trap as well. He is actively a trap. He's super fucking cute, and like, I love his personality and everything. It's like, I just really love him. Definitely my favorite character, but I also like the others. Like, I like Rem, I like Beatrice, Puck, of course. Oh, what's his name? Roswell. I was trying to think the master of the mansion. It's Roswell. Most of these characters I like. The only characters I dislike are the characters you're supposed to dislike, the assholes and whatnot. But even some of them kind of in the first season improved. Especially this one guy who was kind of a major asshole in the first season at first, but then ended up becoming actually an ally. So yeah, but I'm really excited for this because this started last year, and I wasn't getting to it right away, and I was going to hold off, especially after it was revealed the second half of the season would be waiting until January. So I wanted to hold off on it, but now we're finally beginning it with this new schedule, and I'm glad we are. Episodes of this will be probably one a week, maybe two if I'm feeling up to it, but just it'll mostly probably be one a week just to keep it easy, just to keep it simple. So yeah, um, but I am definitely excited to get to this. Have been wanting to see this for a long time, and I'm really hyped for it. And yeah, we're gonna be watching it in the sub. I know there is part of the dub out at least. I don't know if it's caught up with where the sub is, but I know the dub is partially out. And I love the dub, and I've met Rem's voice actress. She's amazing and she's fantastic. She's also the voice of Tuesday from Carol and Tuesday. Um, but I like the English dub, but I prefer the Japanese voices for this series. Uh, like notably so. So even though there is an English dub, we are going to be watching the original Japanese here. Just letting you know off the bat. So yeah, I'm excited to see what we have in store this season. I'm excited to see more of the insanity, the darkness. Honestly, I'm hoping that this season gets even darker and more intense and more frightening, and we have a lot more of the good shit, the gore, the blood, the violence. I want to see more of that shit for sure. But I also want to see more of the good comedy, more of the great drama. There's a lot of great drama in this. Um, and I know we probably won't, but I would love to get a moment in this that is as good as the discussion on the roof that Rem and Subaru had in season one. I'll leave it at that, but if you've seen season one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Easily the highlight of the entire season. Um, it was phenomenal. It was so phenomenally voice acted. It was so phenomenally directed. It was perfection, pretty much. So I'm hoping we get a moment like that in this season. It doesn't have to be like just a big talking moment like that was, but it could be anything, just something that really hammers in that level of intensity, drama, and just sticking power. Because that scene from season one sticks with you really heavily, and I'm hoping that we get something in this season like that. Anywho, we're just gonna get this started and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, season 2 started off not pulling any punches. Like, damn. Um, like, they just went right back into it. Without question, it's like, no hesitation, no waiting, just didn't even pretend to wait to get into the heavy shit. This is ReZero. And this is what this series is all about. This is what this series has always been about. Um, so on their way back after killing and capturing the white whale, um, Subaru, when talking about Rem to Amelia, notices that Amelia doesn't know who Rem is anymore. Obviously, this is what we had seen before in season one, where people were forgetting Rem's name when she kept getting killed by the white whale. So we clearly know that either this means there's another whale or something else is happening. At this point, it kind of flashes back to a little bit before where we see Rem in conversation with Krush. Um, but as they're going along, their group of caravans and everything are attacked by the Sin Archbishop of Greed and the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony. Um, so let's talk about them. So, like I mentioned, in season one, we met Petalgoose, um, who was the Sin Archbishop of Sloth. He is this like crazy ass dude, voiced by the same voice actor as Kirito from Sword Art Online. He's just completely insane, kooky, weird, but in the best way. Um, and he represented Sloth. So now we get to meet two of the others, which again, I did not think we would meet any more Sin Archbishops this quickly and this soon. Like the first episode, we meet two more of them. Um, Greed seems more like he would be Wrath to me because he seems to get angry at the smallest things, especially like when he's being ignored or whatnot. Um, but it's hard to say what his power is because I don't think he was the one destroying the carts and all the carriages. I think that was actually Gluttony, based on what we saw after they were both introduced. But when we saw like he was attacked, the attack did nothing to him. So maybe his power is more defensive. Or maybe like something like that. Because we also saw him like when Rem was fighting, we saw him like do something towards her and it like broke her barriers and shit. It like broke her defenses. Hmm. But yeah, personality wise, he's kind of normal, except for again the just getting angry at every little thing. Gluttony is definitely more like Petalgoose was. Gluttony is very weird and kooky and like repeating phrases and everything. Um, Petalgoose would do the same kind of thing. Um, so it's really interesting. Now, this kind of shows us that some of the Sin Archbishops are similar, but some of them also do have differences in terms of, again, personality and whatnot. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to see how they've developed these characters and how they're expressing their personalities throughout the introductions of them. So we find out that Gluttony devoured Rem's memories and name. Devouring the memories, apparently, because the same thing happened to Krush after Subaru first went back with his power, his return by death. After he first went back and tried it again, only realizing he only returned to after Rem was already dead. Or, well, dead. She's not really dead this time. But we find out, yeah, if you devour just, if Gluttony devours just the memories, like what happened with Crush in this go around, um, you're just kind of left with amnesia. It's as simple as that. But if Gluttony devours the name as well, it puts you into a comatose state, like your entire being at that point is gone, which is interesting. Because it's definitely the same kind of thing that happened with the white whale. So it implies the white whale was a creation of the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, or that it was imbued with Gluttony's power. Either or. Um, which is really interesting, and it makes me wonder like what other kinds of May beasts out there would be able to have the powers of these different Sin Archbishops in some way. We see that Gluttony also uses blades to fight, and it seemed like that was what was attacking everyone. Like in the first go around in the fight, that's how Krush lost her arm, and so on. It's like, yeah, and I think it was Gluttony who was destroying the carriages and killing everyone on board, because we did see a disembodied hand fall with the carriages and all too. So that's what I'm guessing here. Um, but after everything is again reset by the return by death, um, everything just kind of goes along, and Rem is in her comatose state. Subaru's depressed by it. Amelia's just trying to help, basically. And Krush, because she has now amnesia because of her memories being eaten by Gluttony, um, she's having to deal with trying to basically figure out how to lead as she had been while not even knowing who she or anyone around her is. Um, and Fellis is at his wits' end about it all. He's trying to dissolve the alliance because he's afraid for Krush. Um, and he's so upset by this, and fair enough, I get it. His loyalty to Krush has never been in question, but it's really hard to see, like really hard to see him breaking down so hard like that, just because his master, who he cares deeply for, is in that bad of shape and is willing to put herself in even greater risk. Um, but Wilhelm manages to get things back on track with everything. Uh, Krush agrees to not dissolve the alliance. And so nothing really changes heavily in that regard. It was just kind of like, I feel like that moment was mostly for helping continue to develop Fellis, um, as well as to show, well, the damage that this all has caused. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Um, and going right off the bat with this kind of stuff, it's like, geez, like this is only the first episode of this season. They just really don't want to hold back here, and I mean, fair enough. Like the series is known for being that intense and frightening and heavy, so it's like not wanting to hold back on the first episode of season two. It's like I get it, I understand. Um, but yeah, so this was definitely just setting up for this current arc. And the question is how we're going to restore Rem at this point, because that's definitely the main goal here, to restore Rem and possibly try to defeat Gluttony, at least Gluttony, but also Greed as well. Um, they are definitely those are definitely the goals at the moment. Um, and I'm still wondering if Gluttony is killed and defeated and all, will that reverse the effects? Or does Gluttony have to actively give back the stuff? How does this work? I don't know. It's like it's a really unusual ability, really. So we just don't know at the moment. But the fact that this is starting off so strong tells us that we're in for a ride with season two for sure. Um, we're gonna have just as many really hard moments, a lot of horrifying moments, just a lot to look forward to this time. Um, and honestly, I think that I think that it could surpass the first season if it does it all right. And I know a couple things about the season going in, just to let you know. But only like, okay, I know this character exists, basically. I won't say who the character is in case anyone is watching this blind with me. But just in case, yeah, just in case I won't say anything. But I do know of a couple characters. And mostly I know because I know, I follow their English dub voice actors on Twitter. So it's like I know of the characters because I know their voice actors and I know that they voice them. So I don't know like all the details about them or anything. In fact, I know almost nothing about them. Um, so yeah, but I basically know they exist. There's that. So yeah. Either way, either way, I'm very much excited to see what more we have in store for this season as we go along. And hopefully, like I said, it ends up being even better than the first. But tell me your thoughts on episode 1 of ReZero Season 2 down in the comments below. And thank you all so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.